Hi, Mark Robertson back with you here on Mark Robertson Talks. Today's topic, Marxism, the evil idea that has brought such damage and murder to the world. But it sounds so wonderful, so utopian. Marxism, Karl Marx, from each according to their ability, to each according to their needs. Oh, how wonderful. We got to soak the rich and make them give all their wealth to the poor. And then they equalize everything out, have an egalitarian society. Sounds so wonderful. Such societies have brought damage and murder and filth and squalor throughout history, though. It has been a totally failed system and brought so much misery to the world. Redistribution of wealth never works. It's an evil idea, actually. It's forced redistribution. If you're going to help the poor, it has to be voluntary and private charity. But Marxism is such a total failure, and its ideas are crazy. The three tenets of Marxism or communism are abolition of private property, basically destroy the family, and squash religion, morality, and truth. I mean, right there, you do all that, society goes down the drain. It's just common sense, but they got to control the masses. And they actually put forth the lie that they're claiming they are helping the so-called oppressed or the worker, the working class people. It's a huge lie. Karl Marx and Marxism hated marriage and the family. It is the foundation of society. So, in other words, they want to disrupt the foundation of society. And they hate religion, especially the Catholic Church. Again, the foundation of society, the bedrock of society. They've got to destroy it so they can control the masses. And Marxism, like I say, killed over 100 million people in the last century. Now, there are basically 5 core ideas in communism or Marxism. And the Communist Manifesto, it was written in 1848 by Karl Marx along with Friedrich Engels. And they basically were a couple of lowlifes. They wanted power and control. And Marx believed that conflict between the ruling class, the bourgeois, and that controls the means of production. So the factories, the businesses, things like that, and the mines. There was a battle between them and the working class he called the proletariat, or the middle class. The middle class, we hear that term today, that's a Marxist term. So he wants to classify people. He wants to narrow them down into a small category. And so that's about control as well. And they are claimed that they have their labor, they are forced to bow to these bourgeois, these factories, these owners of factories and things like this. So he tries to push the class struggle. That's all about the control as well. He wants to make them think that life is unfair, that things not equal, that the rich are harming society. It's very similar to what we hear in this country today. They attack the rich and things like that. And there is much Marxism in the United States today from the left, from the Democrat Party. And there are many things, as we'll see later, the 10 points of Marxism, you'll recognize them all. Many of them are put forth by today's Democrat Party in the United States. But that's what they want to do. He wants to stoke anger among the masses who work in the factories, and so they can control them. He wants to make them angry at them. And then they go in and they take over the factories. Government runs the factories. Well, it's a disaster every time it's been tried. Like I say, they want to abolish private property. It's a total disaster. It's never worked. It's all about power and control by corrupt, satanic people. Karl Marx had satanic ideas. You can see this in some of his writings. And he was basically an evil human being, a disastrous family. He had a couple daughters commit suicide. And he's just a lowlife that put these crazy ideas forth, the anti-free market, anti-capitalism ideas that have been so beneficial for society. Free market and capitalism have been so beneficial, but Karl Marx undermines these. But so many today, even in U.S. universities and colleges, teach Marxism as if it's a good thing. It's evil. It's pure evil. It's never worked anywhere. It never will work anywhere. But you keep finding these people who idealize it, romanticize it, and it's never worked. Socialist utopianism has nenever worked. No matter how many times it's been tried, they keep saying, well, we don't have the right people involved in it. That's crazy. That's another lie. It just is, it's evil to its core. Another thing, they want to create a dictatorship of the proletariat. In other words, they want to control the people. Collective ownerships, like I was just saying. They don't want private property, even factories, but government-run factories are a disaster everywhere. Obviously, nothing works. Look at the post office. Look at the VA. Anything the government runs is a disaster. The private enterprise system is the greatest system ever devised by mankind. Karl Marx, Marxism, and Communism goes against that. They basically want to destroy private property, and they want to control the masses, and they have to do it through violence and power and at the end of the barrel of a gun. That's the only way you control the masses, because there's no motive or incentive for profit making, to earn a living, to better yourself. And the only way they can bring that about is through force, to get the people to do what they want them to do, to work at these factories. And there was one saying I heard not long ago that we pretend to work at these factories and they pretend to pay us. So it's all a sham and it's all a fraud. And it's basically, they want to get communism also as well as another tenet, the abolition of private property, and they want a classless society. And then they want internationalism as well. This is the people, the UN crowd, the people globalist. They want to erase borders. It's all evil. They don't want sovereign nations. It's all about one world government. It's they want to transcend national borders. We hear that all today. Look at the border situation in the United States. The left wants to open the southern border. They don't want borders. The left, even in the Catholic Church, even the Pope, is against borders, a borderless society, which would be a disaster, as we are seeing. Our society will not survive without borders. You have to have borders. You have to have immigration policies and laws, or your society will not survive. And these communists know this. And then, of course, Karl Marx hated religion. He hated the Catholic Church. He called it the opium of the people. And he says religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature. And of course, he knew that religion was a major threat as well to his ideas of domination. And it also was a bedrock of society. So he basically wants to destroy society so he can control it. Communism is evil, but like I say, we see it developing in our country. And through so many ways from the left, all of the colleges, nearly all the colleges and universities have some Marxist professors. They teach Marxist ideologies and economics and other ideas. And it sounds so wonderful within the walls of college campuses, the ivory towers. Oh my gosh. With the rich, we got to soak the rich, make them give their wealth to the poor. So we got to level the playing field, level everything out. Egalitarianism, it never works. It's always a disaster. And but the left keeps falling for it. They keep pushing it. And of course, they know it doesn't work. But it's about their power and their control. That's all they want. They don't care about people. They don't care about helping people. They don't care about the good of people. Matter of fact, they want to keep people down. They want to keep them under their thumb so they can control them, because they're the elites. They know so much more than the average, everyday, great American. The elite are so much smarter than us. As you can see in the last election, tens of thousands showed up for President Trump, true Americans, great Americans. But now they're trying to steal the election from him. The elites are. We can't have these people. They don't know what they want. They don't know what they like. They're bad people. We got to squash them, and we got to end the United States as we know it. We got to get rid of the Electoral College, and we got to get rid of this. We got to get rid of that in the Constitution. The Constitution is harmful, they say. So basically, we have a bunch of Marxists in the Democratic Party right now trying to destroy this country, and they're the same as the people in the old Soviet Union and in China right now. It's about power, control, using every technique possible, every lie they advance. Marxism is a big lie. It's about advancing the lie. And so it never works. It never has worked. It never will work. But I pointed out Karl Marx in his Communist Manifesto had 10 major points, and you'll recognize a lot of these. And first of all, here they are. The first point, abolition of property in land and application of all rents of land to public purposes. So he wants to get rid of private property. A heavy, progressive, and graduated income tax. Does that sound familiar? The left. We've got to raise taxes on the rich. At one point in this country, the top rate was 90%. And that basically was instituted by FDR, but it stayed throughout the 50s, actually. And so obviously that's a major graduated tax. It's very Marxist or communist. and they always want the rich to pay more. They oppose such things as the flat tax or the property tax or anything like that. They always want the progressive. They want to punish the rich, and of course, the rich, when you punish them, you actually hurt everyone else because the economy slows. But they know that. They don't want a strong economy. The left does not want a strong economy in this country or in Marxist countries because they can't control the people if the economy is strong. So that's a similarity there to this country to Marxist countries. Okay, then we want the abolition of all right of inheritance. Well, in this country, we've got what we call the death tax, and the left doesn't want to get rid of that. So you have to pay a tax just to die, essentially. And you can't give whatever you want to your family or whoever you want to give it to without paying a huge penalty or without being able to work it where you can hide it or put it in some other kind of thing. It's crazy that the left has done that and what the rich have to do with their money. They should be able to keep their money. They should be able to do whatever they want. It's their money. They earned it. They've already been taxed at least once on it. And so it's crazy. The left, they're the same everywhere. Boy, but you want to get rid of the death tax, the left goes crazy over that. And so it's another thing. And confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels. And the centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and exclusive monopoly. So what do we have here? The Federal Reserve. So that's very similar to that, brought about by Woodrow Wilson. He had very many Marxist ideas, and he brought about the income tax as well. So the centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. Well, we don't necessarily have a state media, but we may as well have, because the leftist news media is all far left radical in support of leftist radical causes. They're technically free market organizations, but 95% of the mainstream media is far left radical. So essentially, we have that as well. Control of the media, control of the message. And the transport in the hands of the state, well, that's the inner city rails and things like this, mass transportation. And there's quite a lot of that here, too, in the big cities. And, of course, that was a problem with the COVID. People got that. They'd be in small enclosed areas, and tough situation there. So another area where the left is wrong. Their ideas prove wrong and dangerous and even deadly. And the equal liability of all to labor, establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. And so basically that's unions and things like that. And there's some good from unions, but it's all about, again, plotting the people who work for companies against each other. And so they can create chaos. It's not about you can work for a good company, they treat you well, you want to go to work every day for that company. They hate that idea. There's a lot of great companies in the United States that treat their employees very well. They don't feel oppressed at all. They love working at these places. But the Karl Marx and his goons couldn't take that thought. They want the people who work for companies to be against the owners of the company. They don't like cooperation or the idea that somebody might enjoy working for a company, a small or large company. And the extensions of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, the bringing into cultivations of wastelands, and the improvement of the soil generally in accordance with a common plan. So they want collective farms, they want collective factories. It's all a disaster. It created great famine in the Soviet Union. It never works. The free market is what works. The word communism comes from commune, and that never works either, whether it's tried in this country or wherever. Private property is the answer. It's the only answer for the economy. Private property is people taking care of their own land, and they know best how to do that, not some government dictator. And so also the number 9, the combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the population over the country. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous as well. People can't live where they want to live, and so the government tries to move them around. We've even seen some of that here with the ideas of the suburbs, trying to control the suburbs and build these buildings there. So It's ridiculous. Like I say, there's many communist threats in this country as well, and Marxist ideas thriving here too, but they have to be squashed and pushed away in favor of freedom and the free market. And number 10, you'll all recognize this: free education for all children in public schools, abolition of children's factory labor in its present form, combination of education with industrial production, etc. So, government schools in this country, brought here by John Dewey, basically a communist idea. They want to indoctrinate the kids to their ideas. And that's basically what's happened in this country. I mean, they took prayer out of schools in the early 1960s, and now all form of depravity has entered schools, whether it's transgenderism, whether it's passing out birth control in schools, whether it's the corrupt sex education. And so they know that this corrupts the mind. And when you have corrupt minds, you can control them better. That's the idea of government education. It has not much at all to do with actually educating students, the well-being of the students. It's about controlling them. It's about brainwashing them to crazy, loony, left-wing ideas. And public education in this country is a disaster. Even areas where there's good schools, you can't teach right and wrong based on the Bible, because that's illegal. That's prayer in schools. So what are you going to base it on? Just the whims of the day? And look at the results. We have kids thinking they're the opposite sex. We have bathrooms confusion in schools. And it's just madness that the left, how they've taken God out of everything. They got to get religion out of everything. That's a Marxist idea. It's right here. It's arrived in America. It's arrived in the United States of America. And it's a disaster in the making. And it's getting worse. Now we see the election system is rigged and controlled. They're trying to steal an election here in 2020. That's more Marxist communist ideas as well. As Stalin said, it's not the votes that counts, it's who counts the votes. And so that's what's going on now. They're trying to steal an election. As of this day, it's still in limbo. But that's a communist tradition as well. Communism is simply evil. It never works. It never has worked. It's an idea of a satanic human being. Karl Marx was simply an evil human being who put forth these ideas, and those ideas mass murdered over 100 million people in the last century. And it's just as evil as it gets. And the United States has to do all it can to keep the tentacles of communism, Marxism out of here, or at least not advance any further than they already are in this country. Our country right now is in a major struggle against the Marxists and the crazy on the left who are trying to destroy this country, who are trying to destroy our constitutional foundation. Marxists hate the Constitution. They hate the idea of freedom. They hate the idea of individual states making decisions. And that's why you want to get rid of the Electoral College and want to make it a one popular vote, which would be insane, which would be essentially the end of the country. It won't survive. And so there's always this Marxist threat. Freedom is never free. It's always a fight against these people. They're always wrong, but they're always trying to advance their cause. They're relentless. They don't quit. So to keep a country free is an ongoing, and it has to be a relentless battle. And we are in that battle right now. And it's a full-throated battle. It's really a tough situation. But good has to overcome evil. And Marxism, communism is pure evil. And there's some good books I'd like to recommend for it. First of all, Thomas Sowell, his book simply called Marxism. You can't go wrong with Thomas Sowell. He's great. He sees right through it, cuts through all the garbage that Marxism is, and recommend him on anything. He's been on YouTube talking about it as well, so don't have time to read the whole book. You can see some interviews on YouTube about it. And then you have a relatively new book within the last few months has come out, The Devil and Karl Marx by the outstanding author Paul Kingar. And he does talk about Marx and his satanic ways and ideas, actually. A lot of his satanic writings, his ideas are basically evil, and they come from the devil, essentially. And that's what Marxism is. It does come from the devil. Now, the thing that works and that has worked in societies throughout history is capitalism, freedom, the free market, the total antithesis of Marxism. And it's worked greatly, and the countries that have been able to be capitalist countries have been successful. Capitalism is the idea would help the poor countries as well. It helps the poor. It's the best way to help the poor, both by creating jobs and also making people, put them in a better position to actually help the poor, either directly or donate to private charities. And so capitalism, the free market, that's the answer for all countries. And, you have all these people with the migration problems from Mexico. If these countries down there were capitalist countries, they wouldn't want to leave. They'd have a strong, thriving economy there. But these leaders in these countries don't want a strong economy. Like I said, you can't control people if the economy is strong. So they do the things they can to oppress the economy, and they're basically Marxism light, in some cases much worse. So actual Marxism. But once again, I got a book here, How Capitalism Saved America. And it's a great book by Thomas D. Lorenzo. That's basically, our country was founded on the free enterprise system, the free market system. And the profit motive is a great thing. And that's what capitalism, and that's what Marxism get rid of, the profit motive. And the profit motive is what keeps our society going, the free enterprise system. Yes, it's so wonderful, sounds well. No, we got to give. We got to do this out of the goodness of our heart. We have to have government health care, because health care shouldn't be part of the free market, because, it's a cruel situation. No, it's actually the most compassionate situation, or the system going, the free market system. Healthcare should be the free market. It does the best job of providing goods and services to the people. And but they come in, they use all these things about egalitarian and all this stuff. It's not fair that some people have healthcare. No, we need free market healthcare. We got to get the government out of healthcare. And that's why it has all the problems. That's why it costs so much. And it would be so helpful to the poor if the government would get out of healthcare and about everything else it's in. There are some legitimate things government does, the military and other things like that. We have a system of laws. We have to have laws and things like that. But we need limited government, and we need the government out of things, just the opposite of what Marxism calls for. And another good book here, Defending the Free Market, by Father Robert Sirico. And it's a very good book, and he calls it a moral case for the free market. The free market is very moral, unlike Marxism, which tried to squash traditional morality, or it does do that. And it squashes religion and right and wrong. And Father Sirico, he heads the Acton Institute up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I highly recommend going there, checking out all their materials and online things. It's a great organization. It talks about the free market and how actually the free market is biblical, and it goes with Catholic social teaching. And it's basically against Marxism. And the Catholic Church has always been against socialism and Marxism. And it has spoken out against that throughout the centuries, actually. And but Father Sirico runs a very good organization, like I say, in Michigan, called the Acton Institute, and highly recommended, and highly recommend his book, The Free Market, Defending the Free Market, The Moral Case for a Free Economy. And so you can't go wrong there. And these books both are the antithesis of the Communist Manifesto from the disastrous, dreadful human being, Karl Marx. And we'd just like to thank you today for joining us on Mark Robertson Talks, and we will see you next time.